to a special edition, a Halloween edition of Ask a Nurse Practitioner with NP Deidre. I am your host, Kim McNicholas, and today we are diving into a topic that is as sweet as it is spooky, the scariest ingredients in Halloween candy. As the jack-o'-lanterns flicker and trick-or-treaters prepare their costumes, Americans are gearing up for a massive candy splurge. According to recent reports, we're looking at a staggering $3.5 billion spend on Halloween candy this year alone. That's enough to make your teeth chatter, and not just from the cold. But what's really frightening isn't the amount we're spending, it's actually what's hiding or lurking inside those colorful wrappers. Today, we're going to unwrap the mystery behind some of your favorite Halloween treats, from artificial colors that might be more trick than treat, to preservatives that could haunt your health long after Halloween is over. We will be asking the tough questions. What's really in that handful of Skittles? Is the scariest thing about your Reese's peanut butter cup the amount of high fructose corn syrup? And just what is that ingredient in Kit Kats that sounds more like a science experiment than a chocolate bar? But don't worry, we're not here to take the fun out of your Halloween. Our goal is to just shed light on what we're really consuming so you can make informed decisions about your treats. After all, knowledge is power, and in this case, it might just be sweeter than candy. So grab your favorite Halloween treat if you dare, and join us as we welcome our expert nurse practitioner, Deidre, to help us navigate the labyrinth of labels and decode the most spine-chilling ingredients lurking in our Halloween haul. Hi, Deidre. How was that for an intro? You like all the play on words there?
I do. Of course I do. So,
So are
and
we
I'm
ready to
excited for
share?
this episode, actually. It's going to be a lot of fun things to talk about, right? So what's the spooky about this Halloween candy? You were saying we're going to spend 3.1 billion on Halloween candy, or 3.5 billion. So last year we consumed 600 million pounds of candy, and that's the equivalent of dumping over six Titanic-sized piles of candy onto our streets.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding?
Yeah, that's the equivalent of it. So that's quite startling, isn't it? 600 million pounds. Wow.
That's a lot of candy. Is that according to the World Metrics report?
That's the World Metrics report. And what I looked up was 2023 alone was 3.1 billion that was spent on Halloween candy. So
Oh my goodness. Any other shocking statistics before we go into some shocking ingredients
I
that
think that was the most shocking there, just the pure amount of what we're spending. What if our patients had $3.1 billion poured into their health care?
ooh, that would be nice. I think that
Right.
we'd be focusing on healthcare versus sick care, I think, at that point.
I do too.
So, what do you say? Let's go through some of the most popular candies according to the World Metrics report. I think we should start with Skittles because those are one of my favorite. What artificial colors are used in Skittles, and what potential health concerns are associated with them? And I feel like I should close my ears now. I'm not sure I really want to hear this.
You mean taste the rainbow of chemicals?
Yes,
Is
exactly, exactly. You always say taste the rainbow, but we're talking in that you're talking about our whole foods, our vegetables. But yeah, no, not tasting the rainbow of Skittles.
right. Skittles might look innocent, right? They've got those vibrant colors, but those colors are powdered by artificial dyes. Red 40, yellow 5, blue 1, and these dyes are what raise concerns about potential links to hyperactivity in children. So, hello, sugar rush, allergies, and even potential cancer risk in lab animals, which startling. And it's not exactly the rainbow we want to be chasing, right? We want to be chasing diverse phytonutrient foods. And Skittles, surprisingly, California has that Prop 65 where there are certain things they don't recommend, and Skittles is on that list. So,
Is that wow? That is amazing. I had no idea. But I think I've seen Skittles still in the supermarkets, or at least I thought I had here in California, but now I'm not so sure. I haven't had them in years.
So,
That'll be interesting.
yeah, let me
Next
know.
time I'm going to look. So you were mentioning Sugar Rush. How much, uh, a lot of these candies, it's not just general sugar, right? Granulated sugar. They have high fructose corn syrup. So one of my other favorites is Reese's peanut butter cups. High fructose corn syrup is one of the first ingredients right there. How much high fructose corn syrup is in a Reese's peanut butter cup, and why is that concerning?
So it's more than just peanut butter love there, right? A serving of Reese's contains about 11 grams of sugar and packs in that high fructose corn syrup. So it's controversial, right? The high fructose corn syrup because it's linked to obesity, diabetes, and increased fat production in the liver. So it's really frightening for cardiovascular health,
Mhm.
especially for those with PAD.
Oh, I would imagine. And what about Starbursts? Those are another popular one every single Halloween. How might they affect our bodies?
So a sticky situation with preservatives here with that one. So Starburst
Sticky
contains,
situation. Nice. Thank you for that. At least I'm not the only cheese ball here on this show.
well, we make a good team with that,
We do.
right? So Starburst contains butylated hydroxylene. It's a preservative,
Wow.
BHT. I know I butchered that.
No, they always say if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it.
Right? And I cannot pronounce that. So, but this chemical has been flagged as potential carcinogens in animal studies, and some research suggests that it could interfere with hormones and even affect the liver. So, Starbursts may burst with flavor, but they also come with a dose of unnatural longevity. Spooky.
Oh, I wonder how much you have to actually eat to really have it be a health risk. I would almost imagine, one or two once every long while wouldn't be as bad, but then you couple it with other things. So you're like, I'm gonna have a little bit of this, and then a little bit of this, and then a little bit of our next one, which is candy corn, which is often containing gelatin. And I just found out a little factoid here about candy corn. And I didn't know this because I've never had a handful of candy corns. But I guess the reason they're called candy corns, according to the meme I saw today, is that when you actually layer them together, the outside it actually looks like a corn on the cob. So anyway, this gelatin that is supposedly used in there on in these candy corns, what is it made from, and why might this be an issue for people who eat it?
Well, we can call those the gelatin ghouls, right? And I actually have seen those Instagrams where people put it all together, and it does look like a corn on the cob there. But candy corn's bright orange and yellow magic comes from the gelatin, and it's made from boiled skin, tendons, ligaments, and bones of cows and pigs. So truly the stuff of Halloween horror for vegetarians and vegans. While that's typically not harmful to most, it might turn your stomach to know what you're really snacking on.
That's really awful. It almost sounds like what they put in a hot dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So don't do the
Yeah,
ball games and
right.
the Halloween together.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, what about Kit Kats? And I love the Kit Kat darks, the dark chocolate ones. Oh my gosh. But Kit Kats contain PGPR, and I don't know, it's polyglycerol polyricinoleate. What is that ingredient? I can't pronounce.
The
Why is
trick
it
behind the
used in
treat.
what?
It's the
What did you
trick behind the treat.
Yes, exactly. Why is it in chocolate production and why is it not so good for us?
So it's used in Kit Kats to make chocolate production smoother and cheaper, right? So we're looking for mass production, making things more affordable, and it replaces cocoa butter. And it is associated with like digestive issues, and it doesn't add any nutritional value, but you probably are aware of that. And it's really a trick hidden in your treat.
Wow. Yeah. When you do get into that mass manufacturing, you always wonder what they have to do in order to scale the
Mhm.
recipe. And that's concerning that they would replace cocoa butter with that in order to scale. I still I there has to be a way to scale these foods without sacrificing the nutrients and the natural products.
I
But of
think
course, I'm
that's
not
the
into
trend of
manufacturing.
making these things from home now. People are starting to find natural ingredients because
Mhm.
when we mass produce even our vegetables, we are not getting what we need out of them.
Now, and you have actually made Snickers at home with, I think you said figs. Is it no, dates?
Yes.
It's dates and nuts dipped in chocolate. And I use actually raw cacao mixed with some coconut oil and agave to make my chocolate. And then I put the dates with the nuts in the freezer just for maybe 10 minutes. And then I dip them into the chocolate. So it's like it'll magic shell it
That's
and solidify that chocolate.
I use a little bit of nut butter, so like your almond butter, like
Oh,
when
that's a
you
good idea.
cut that date in half a little and put a little of the nut butter there, so you get the sweet and the savory, and then do the dipping, and then when I dip, I sprinkle the nuts that way on top, or even a little sea salt. And, even in moderation with that, though, we don't want to go overboard on even the good things we make, but that is a healthy alternative to the candies that you buy from the store.
I just found out that there's some sort of genetic factor. There's a marker that actually makes you more prone to craving sugar. And so if you are one of those that do crave sugar and you feel like you need it, then these alternatives are so much better. I mean, as you said, you got to do everything in moderation, but at least they are, it's the lesser of all evils. And there are some nutrients in those ingredients, those natural ingredients that you have at home. But what's not so natural is our next one, which is M&Ms. Oh, M&Ms, colorful shells, and they're made with many, many dyes. So can you talk about which ones are used and have any actually, I'm fearing asking this, have any been linked to any health issues?
Yeah, so they do come out of price, and I will say M&M's notoriously has been one of my favorites, especially the
Mhm.
peanut M&Ms. So that was a hard one to stop doing all the time. But the dyes that they use, very similar to the Skittles, red 40, yellow 5, and blue 2, some of which have been linked to hyperactivity and allergic reactions. That red 40 in particular, it has been subject to ongoing debate about the potential links of ADHD and cancer. So let's just say those shells are more than meets the eye.
Do you remember that movie with Jennifer Lopez? And it was the one about the oh gosh, with Matthew McConaughey. And he says that he's dropping all of the colorful M&Ms down. And he says and Jennifer Lopez says to him, "Well, why are you not eating the other colors?" And he says, "Well, because there's dye on them and chocolate's already brown, so he only eats the chocolate ones." But I heard that there's also a brown colored dye that they use on them too.
I would say there has to be some sort
Yeah.
of brown, and it could be mixing of these colors to get that of these dyes, right? Because
Yep.
these are your primary colors. When you mix red, blue, and yellow, you get brown.
Yep. Yes, you do. So I still think there's a dye on it. But I did after watching that movie the first first time and I did, I was like, oh, that's a good point. So I'm just going to eat the brown ones. And now thinking about it, I'm like, no, I think that the brown ones also have a dye that's used. And I like the way that you explained it, that yes, they probably mix a whole bunch together to make that particular brown color. Now, what about Nestle Crunch Bars? That those are also in the top Halloween candy um, favorites. They have an ingredient known as TBHQ. And I am going to botch this. It is one of those that, yes, if you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't eat it. But I think it's tertiary butyl hydroquinone.
I think you did great because that was a hard one. I was
It was a
looking
hard
at
one.
that like, yeah.
So what is this chemical and why is it so controversial?
It's the TBHQ terrors here with these crunch bars, right? It's an antioxidant used to extend shelf life, right?
Mm.
So, highly processed foods, we want them to stay on the shelf longer. It's controversial because high doses in animal studies have shown links to stomach tumors and liver enlargement. And we do have this increase of non alcoholic fatty liver. So, watching these things that we eat. But while the dose in candy is small, it's enough to make you pause between bites, right? Like really thinking about, is this something that nourishes my body or is this something that is disease causing?
Oh wow, that's disturbing. And a lot of the candies out there also contain palm oil. What are the health concerns associated with palm oil? Because I see this in a lot of the different candies.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope there with the palm oil. So many of these candies that we've talked about contain palm oil, which is not only harmful to the environment, but also potentially bad for your health because it's high in saturated fats, which can raise the LDL, bad cholesterol, and increase risk for heart disease.
Wow. And I want to go back to the artificial flavors because we have also Douglas who's here in our live studio audience, and he's asking about Tootsie Rolls, Blow Pops, Pez. I mean, with all of these candies, artificial colors, artificial flavors, are commonly used, but specifically artificial flavors. What is the natural flavoring? I keep seeing this over and over again, and it really is disturbing to me that the FDA has not said, hey, you need to spell out what those natural flavorings are.
Right, because an artificial flavor, those are chemically synthesized compounds. They're designed to mimic natural ones. And then the natural flavors are derived from plant or animal sources. However, both of them undergo a similar chemical process. So neither offers any nutritional value, and natural doesn't really mean it's healthier.
Good to know. Now, what about overall with just sugar? How much sugar is in a typical serving of each of these candies, and how does that compare? Such a loaded question here. Scary question. How does it compare to daily recommended limits? I would imagine even half a serving of one of these is going to just far exceed the guidelines.
Okay, so you're thinking about your whole day of what you can have, right? Daily recommended sugar intake should never be above 24 grams. Some say 25 in women, 36 in men. I'm telling you for health, don't go above 24, and I'm telling you less is better. But let's go down the tour of the sugar alley that we've just went through here with Skittles. That's 30 grams of sugar per a little pack of Skittles there. Your Reese's peanut butter cup, right? Two pieces of Reese's is 22 grams. Your Starburst, 23 grams of sugar per pack of Starburst. Candy corn is surprisingly 28 grams in 19 pieces. That's like a little handful.
Wow.
Your, yeah, your Kit Kat's 21 grams of sugar for four fingers. So, you know, not this is not a lot of food we're getting for the adverse effect. M&Ms are 31 grams of sugar per pack, and your Nestle Crunch is 26 grams of sugar per bar. So really, we are exceeding the quota for our day with our favorite Halloween candies. So you could really max out that quota for the entire day just eating a little bit of this. And it's none of it is nutrient rich, none of it is disease fighting, it's disease causing. So with these spooky stats, I really hope that we can all see the scary side of this Halloween candy here.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's such important information, really important for us to know. Um, I I definitely made some different decisions. I went to Trader Joe's and I got natural peanut butter dipped. It's their own version of the Reese's peanut butter cup, but it's a little bit more. Um, mm, it's healthier. There were only 11 grams of sugar in there. So I thought it was a little bit better than, for our trick-or-treaters than the regular Reese's peanut butter cup. I thought that was kind of a good thing. And Douglas has a question. Let's go ahead and have him unmute and ask Nurse Practitioner Deidre your question.
Shocking. So think about if you go to Dollar General, you can get the peanut butter cups 5 for $1 in a pack. And like, if you eat 3 of them, how much sugar are you really getting? But the question I was thinking, if the FDA knows this is out there, is it is the money involved in candy too much for them to say y'all got to stop doing this or stop putting this out there? Or I mean, how many of us grew up M&M's? M&M's was a motto in the house. If we had a bowl in the hallway and you walk by and pick up how many handfuls during the day and eat how many M&M's.
Mhm. I always
That's a
say,
loaded question.
yeah, I always say follow the money. You're,
Yeah, I mean
but
it's true. But it's surprising because you have the diabetes epidemic that
mhm,
is not just here in the United States, it's global. And the latest stat I heard from the American Diabetes Association was about half of US adults are at least pre-diabetic. And that's scary. And even worse is I saw a study in Science Direct several months ago that was talking about peripheral artery disease now in people who are in their 20s. And
mhm,
these aren't patients that are presenting with early stage PAD. They are presenting in emergency rooms with critical limb ischemia, the most advanced stage of PAD, and several are getting their legs chopped off. But imagine
mhm.
having to have these roto-rooting procedures and bypasses in your 20s when we know that they're not durable. Every one of them is a revolving door of treatments. And you imagine, Douglas, you are, above 50 and, you have less that you have to worry about the revolving door than someone who's, let's say, in their 20s. And it's really concerning. And we do urge not only FDA, but the manufacturers to rethink what they're doing for the sake of the people and literally do what's right. Do what's right for society and help people live a longer, healthier life. Yes, Douglas.
But does that go that is it's same way with PAD and what we talk about a lot. The money sometimes overrides that smart thinking, doesn't it? Because the M&M manufacturers, if they're making millions of dollars a day on selling M&Ms, how many of them have to worry about my legs compared? It, does that make sense? So it's
Right?
part of that insanity. And I grew up on candy corn, and you ruined my day telling me what was in candy corn. It was like, really? I've been eating candy corn for 62 years, and it's like, holy cow! Well, that just blew that idea.
But it sounds as though, teacher, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like the candy corns are actually the least of our concerns. in comparison to some of the others.
Right. I mean, it's lacking dyes and more of the harmful dyes, like the red 40 especially. Um, so that one's got the most controversial talk about it. So candy corn probably is the least of all of it. What's surprising to me is our children. Like we gear this to our kids, right? Trick or treat, happy Halloween. We leave the candy bowls out, like you said, Doug, when you were a kid. And so I would warn people, don't leave your candy set out, right? If you're in a home, don't do that. Like if you're going to have it, put it away and do it in moderation. When we see something and are passing through, it's easy to grab and throw it in our mouth and not think about why we should or shouldn't have that. And especially for our kids, right? Diabetes in children is skyrocketing. And so we're just going to see these disease processes younger and younger.
How much of that can be addicting to us in the sense that once, like Lay's potato chips, once you have one, you can't. How many Reese's peanut butters have we really? I can't open a package and eat just one.
Well,
I'm gonna have.
Douglas, you bring up such a good point, and I was going to ask this as well. I think that Snickers, yeah, it is really satisfying. So it does what it says it does. It is actually satisfying. It doesn't make me crave more of it. But all the other chocolates out there, they make me crave more and they design it. And I think they add more sugar. It's like they err towards the side of more sugar because sugar is addicting. So the more sugar that's in there, the more addicted you are, and the less satisfied you are with one. And you have to keep eating more and more and more and more.
Right. And, studies have been shown sugar, salt, carbs, they are more addictive than heroin, cocaine alone, hands down. So if we're thinking about, what's really causing an addiction, try to go without sugar this November. That's a challenge we do at our office, no sugar November, but try it. Like it is very hard to look at everything that you are eating and be like, I don't want any sugar and I'm taking it out. I just reviewed somebody's supplements and looked at one she brought in and it had 3 grams of sugar in a supplement. And I was like, don't take that at all. Yeah. So it's everywhere. And I would challenge yourself to just try to eliminate it as much as possible, but it's so highly addictive.
But when you're talking sugar, you're talking about processed sugar. You're talking about adding sugar. You're talking
Right.
about, you're not talking about, let's say, having a date, um,
No, I'm
which
talking
is
about
sweet.
the high fructose corn syrup, things like that, that are added to that added sugar is what is very disease causing
Can we
and
still
very
add some
addictive.
agave syrup?
Yeah, yeah, you can do some agave, a little bit of honey, little blackstrap molasses, things like that. Those are natural sugars. Don't overdo them, obviously, but there are some alternatives to what you know. Coconut chips is something good to snack on, right? It's a crunchy, lightly sweetened chip, right? We can add something like that. We can make our own fruit leather with no added sugars, but that sweet taste and cut them into fun pumpkins and bats and things like that. But there's so much we can do to make it fun, be part of the Halloween without having added sugar.
Good for you. I'm so glad. I am going to do that. I'm going to try and make some natural ones this season and do no sugar. That'll be hard on Thanksgiving though.
I am going to tell you a story. My dad last year was so upset that I did no sugar November and wouldn't try this pie he made. He told me it was the most ridiculous thing he'd ever heard. I did not succumb to his peer pressure.
So you did do without. That's good for you.
Yeah, I was like, Dad, we're doing this. Like, I'm not like faulting on this just for a piece of pie. No.
Mm-mm. Good for you. I've actually done a lot better with sweets since I'm actually now anaphylactic to dairy and I'm allergic to gluten. So That really narrows my options. I used to love going to the restaurants and I would have a tiramisu or I would have a creme brulee. And it wasn't every single time, but there were certain restaurants we would go to. And it's always nice. I'm single. I love to date. It's always fun when you go out on a date at the end of the meal to share some sort of dessert, right? Makes, a nice end to the evening, but I can't do that anymore. I'm absolutely no fun. I can't have any of the desserts in the restaurants anymore because of that. And it's actually lowered my intake of sugar, which is probably really good for me. You're probably cheering me on right now.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question about the sugar? Is the sugar you're talking about in the food the same as candy, or is there a difference there?
So natural sugars are like eating a strawberry or something like that. So very different than added sugar. So when you're looking at a package labeling, if there's added sugar, that's what we need to stay away from. That should never be more than 24 grams in a day, no matter what we're eating, even when it's not this Halloween time. Really limiting that. Now, you are going to get sugars through natural fruits, vegetables, things like that. But what's the most damaging is the added sugars.
Mhm. Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Nurse Practitioner Deidre. Remember, the advice and views offered in this program are that of our guests on the program. Make sure you get explicit consent from your own healthcare team before following any advice or taking any action on any information presented here. That's really important. With that being said, NP Deidre, we have a guest next week to the
Yes.
show. Who is this person that we are going to be talking to, and what are we going to be talking about?
So we're going to be talking about a specific strain of probiotic called Akkermansia. Akkermansia is actually the mucin layer of the gut, and this probiotic, and also what Akkermansia naturally does, as we have it in our gut, actually helps to produce GLP-1 naturally. And these are the medications that so many of us hear about, Ozempic, Mounjaro, GLP-1 class. And so she's going to dive deep into that and tell us the benefits of what Akkermansia can do for the gut health and this important probiotic strain.
That'll be really interesting because I haven't read, I've put aside several research studies and a couple articles on the
GLP-1.
LP1. And I hear that there are some not so good things about some of them. So I wanted to dive more into that as well. So if we have something that's more natural, that could be a really good option and something that I really look forward to exploring. So make sure you do tune in next week, same bad time, same bad channel, right here on youtube.com/. The Way to My Heart. Also, Deidre, what's your YouTube channel? Because we are live there as well.
npdeidre.com.
Or what is it? It is NP Deidre. So it's youtube.com/NPD at NP Deidre.
Okay.
So make sure, I know we're both trying to figure it out. It's brand new. We're really excited about it. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channels, and every single week you will get notified if you go to the live tab and then you scroll down and you find Ask a Nurse Practitioner. You will see what we are talking about in the next week. And if you click notify me, you will get notified when we are live. And you can go ahead, and our amazing YouTube producer, Joshua, will field your questions and make sure to get you answers to your questions in real time. We're really excited that you're joining us here. Thank you, NP Deidre. And everyone, I hope you have a wonderful day and a very scary, sugarless